Hello, welcome to Prophecy in the News. Thank you for joining us for this update. I'm Kevin Clarkson, your host. While we're busy watching U.S. politics here at home, and a lot of the world is joining us in that, we're taking our eye off the ball sometimes. We need to keep our eye on the Middle East. And I know there's a lot of fascination and controversy, plenty to go around, between the emails of Hillary Clinton and the statements that come from Donald Trump. And that seems to occupy our media almost all the time in their news cycle. But last week, very quietly, or not so quietly if you were watching it, something very interesting happened in the Middle East. And I wanted to talk with you about that for a moment today. Russia. Now, they already had a presence after that last blood moon when the United States sort of pulled out of its presence as strongly in Syria. The United States backed away a little bit, and Russia came in. But last week they were joined by Turkey. So we have, at this point, Russia and Iran and Turkey working together in what's called a strategic triangle and a coalition to take care of the crisis in Syria. Now the goal of those three, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, would be exactly opposite of the stated U.S. goal as far as a political outcome and who would prevail. But that really doesn't matter because ISIS is the thing that needs to be quashed. And so while this is going on, I have to raise my eyebrows when I see a coalition of those three nations, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But the Jewish press reports that last week there was a meeting in St. Petersburg that involved Vladimir Putin, Erdogan, the president of Turkey, as well as the current president of Iran. They met together and they said, Putin and Russians spun this, saying this is really for the best. This will be a positive role and it will overcome the Syrian crisis. They're saying that obviously because there's a vacuum from the United States. Well, what's interesting when you put Russia, Iran, and Turkey together, bundled in a coalition, I am hearing whistles from Ezechiel 38 and 39. We talk about the war of Gog and Magog, and if you bring that up any time in Israel today, that's something that you can start conversations pretty quickly. The Bible talks about it, and in perspective and in the linear prophecies of Ezekiel, many of you will know that in chapter 37 there's a vision of the valley of dry bones, and the whole skeleton comes to life, the dead rises, and it's a picture of the nation of Israel. That was historically fulfilled during the last century, the 20th century, as Israel rose from the ash heap of history, the graveyard of nations, dispersed and spread around the world, as God had said, for judgment of rejecting Him. But they were called back to their homeland, and in 1948 in May, as you know, Israel became a nation again and was born from the conflicts of World War I and World War II. Amazing what happened. Well, Ezekiel says with Israel, the next big thing to happen really is going to be what we read about in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And I'll just read a few verses from Ezekiel 38 that sets the stage. The word of the Lord came unto me, unto Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince, or Rosh, of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. And all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckles and shields, all of them handling swords. And then he mentions Persia, which is modern Iran, Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. In an update, I don't want to go into the great details, but you can check out our prophecy magazine from last month when there was a question about this very thing, and we wrote an article, or you can go back to January of 2015 where I wrote an article extensively about the identities of these nations. Although some people today want to assign all of this to Turkey, it's still my contention, as Bible scholars have held for a long time, that Gog, Magog, the land of the north, is actually Russia. If you go due north of Jerusalem on a globe or a map, It's true that you'll go through Turkey, but keep going to the uttermost parts of the north, and you will intersect Moscow. And those ancient peoples, in a definitive scholarly tool, Dr. Gesenius' Hebrew lexicon that is used extensively, and it was published in the mid-1800s, long before modern Israel emerged as a nation. He has quite a definitive defense of the identity of Gog as the people of the Caucasus Mountains, the Russians. And then these other nations, Persia is mentioned, that's modern Iran. And then there's reference really to the modern entity of Turkey in these verses. We'll keep you posted on this. We're keeping our eyes open. Even as I came to film this for you today, there were news that for the first time since 1979, when Iran had their revolution and the modern republic was established, they have allowed a foreign nation, that is Russia in this case, to actually launch fighter jets from their territory. Iran, in their own territory, for the first time, allowed a foreign nation, Russia, to launch their military from Iran's own land. And that was an attack on Syria. So this is really breaking. It's of great interest to those of us that follow the prophecy of the Bible, because we see things lining up. And the war of Gog and Magog is not Armageddon, don't get confused there, but it is a prelude to all that is going to unfold as God prepares the world, the people of Israel, and certainly the church for these last days. Let's keep looking up.